Me neither.
Um, I'm sorry. I seem to have an echo. Let me see. How is it now? Nope.
Can you guys see my screen?
We can see you.
Okay,
End screen.
just want to make sure. Ruben, we can now hear you.
I can hear you.
Great. You sound great, Ruben. Can you go ahead and do the intro? Oh, wait, sorry, I might have heard the wrong voice. I can't hear you, Ruben.
Okay.
Rubén, ¿me escuchas? Debes estar en el canal de español, ¿verdad? Ah, bueno, yo también. Yo estoy en el de inglés y estamos tú y yo hablando en español. No entiendo. Ah, can you guys hear us speaking?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're coming in loud and clear without an echo. So that's perfect.
Ahora estamos tú y yo en el mismo canal, ¿no? Rubén.
Okay.
Okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Alrighty. Should I go ahead and do the announcement then?
Yes,
And
please.
then I'll switch to the Spanish channel and begin interpretation.
That'd be great.
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is a bilingual meeting. Interpretation is being provided from English into Spanish and from Spanish into English. At the end of this announcement, you will be able to click on the interpretation icon. All participants, English or Spanish speakers, should click on the interpretation icon, a globe at the bottom of your screen or the three dots on your phone, and pick the language of your choice. If you do not pick a language, you will not be able to listen to the interpreters. Thank you. Hola a todos, bienvenidos a la reunión de hoy. Esta es una reunión bilingüe. Habrá interpretación del inglés al español y del español al inglés. Al concluir este mensaje, podrán pulsar el icono de interpretación, que es el globito en la computadora o los tres puntos en su teléfono. Todos los participantes, ya hablen inglés o español, deben pulsar el icono de interpretación que se encuentra en la parte inferior de la pantalla y elegir el idioma de su elección. Si no elige un idioma, no podrá escuchar al intérprete. Gracias. We're all set. I'm going to switch to the Spanish channel now.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Ready to go ahead and get started.
Muy
Welcome.
bien, vamos a comenzar.
Let me transfer you to the interpretation channel.
Okay. Yes, I'm on two computers, that's why.
I think we're good to go.
Awesome. Thank you, Nanita. All right. Welcome to your DOTI board meeting for December 10th. We'll go ahead and get started. Can I kick it over to you, Gary, for our roll call attendance?
Well, I've been keeping track of people that have signed on, and currently I have nine. I have nine on the Zoom meeting. Is there anybody by phone? Hearing none, that we have 9 right now. Those missing are Alicia, Brian Carroll, Ian Chaudhry, Jamie Lewis, Julie, and Tinsley. I don't see those folks. Speak up if you're here. So right now we're currently at 9.
Great. And I do believe 9's our quorum. With that being said,
11 is quorum.
11's quorum? Okay.
Yes.
I think it might be 9 since we have had some resignations here recently, since Jonathan Pira did resign recently.
Right, and I have him as resigned. Yeah. First, yeah.
All right. In the interest of getting us started here, we'll confirm quorum on the side here. But can I anyway get a vote on approving the meeting minutes if we have indeed achieved quorum?
So a motion?
Yeah. All right. All those in
Second,
favor? raise your
yeah.
hand.
I second.
I'm gonna be a point of order person. We can't approve any official motions unless we have quorum.
Yeah, unfortunately we're 10 minutes late into this meeting, so I'm just trying to keep us moving. If indeed we did we'll confirm bylaws. If we did not indeed achieve quorum, we'll correct that, and we'll have to vote on it next month.
Okay, this might be improper then, but I move to approve the meeting minutes of November.
Awesome, thanks. Will all in favor raise their hand? All right, great. And you can go ahead and lower it. Any opposed? All right, not seeing any. The meeting minutes are tentatively approved. I'll go ahead and confirm that on the side. And while we're doing that, Nanita, can you kick off our public comment?
Yeah, we have few, actually 5.
Great.
We're gonna start with John Hanna. Hannah, please let me know if can anybody hear me?
Loud and
Can hear
clear.
you.
Okay, Hannah, are you in? Okay, I think we will move on to Leah Campbell.
Nanita, John is on. We just can't hear. He's muted. It's not showing muted, but I can see him on the screen.
Oh, can't even see it.
Yeah, we can't hear you, John.
Okay, since we are running late, Leah Campbell, if you're in and we can hear you, can you go ahead and give us your comment, please?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Good evening. My name is Leah. I live in the Ruby Hill neighborhood at Florida and Decatur, a block off Federal and within a quarter mile of what will likely become a Federal bus rapid transit stop. I'm very excited about the BRT project. I frequently use Federal for commuting, errands, and dining, and I'm here to encourage DOTI and the mayor to advocate for prioritizing reliability and safety as part of the project. I have 2 major concerns about the current design of the project that I think undermine these priorities. The first concern is the plan to mix the bus with traffic between 20th and 50th Avenues. Without its own lane, the bus will get stuck in traffic and will be unable to provide frequent and reliable service, undermining the project goals of increasing ridership, addressing inequities, and improving safety. More people will only shift to the bus if it is as fast or faster than driving. This will only happen if the bus moves in its own lane. My second concern is adding an additional lane on the northbound side of Federal between Evans and Alameda, rather than repurposing an existing lane to accommodate a bus-only lane. I live very close to a section of Federal where this additional lane could be built. Water roads are more dangerous, especially for people moving outside of cars. Even if the widening is only a few feet, the road is already too wide to feel comfortable crossing. I can't cross too quickly as drivers in the right lane will often pull into the crosswalk to turn right on red. However, since the road is so wide, not moving across quickly enough is also dangerous. I have seen drivers run through pedestrian crossings while children are using them, race each other in broad daylight, and cut off the bus when it has right of way. Adding an additional lane will continue to encourage this driving behavior while making it even more difficult for pedestrians and transit riders to use the road. I urge you to push DOTI and the mayor to exercise their influence on CDOT to give the bus its own lane by repurposing a general lane. We have an opportunity with this project to truly prioritize alternative means of transportation and to recreate Federal Boulevard into a people-friendly main street where residents can commune with their neighbors, contribute to the local economy, or simply exist in third spaces. If done right, this project could help transform Denver's transportation system and Denver itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. And next one, we have Peter. Peter, let me know if you're in.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Hi, Dottie. My name's Peter Hufford. I live near Federal Boulevard as well, and want to talk to you about CDOT's Federal Bus Rapid Transit Project. I live 1 block away from Federal Boulevard in Denver's Ruby Hill neighborhood. I use Federal Boulevard frequently to get to work and go to local businesses. Currently, driving on Federal Boulevard is stressful, walking is dangerous, and taking the bus requires lots of patience, which is why I'm very excited about CDOT's Bus Rapid Transit project for Federal Boulevard. It is easy to imagine a future where I can safely walk along Federal Boulevard and can quickly get around on Federal Boulevard by bus, so I don't need to drive as much. However, I'm concerned about CDOT's plans to widen Federal Boulevard between Evans and Jewel. Doing so could make Federal Boulevard less safe for pedestrians and could jeopardize the project's schedule and financial feasibility. Litigation caused by right-of-way acquisition could have a significant impact on the Federal BRT development schedule. Instead, reducing Federal Boulevard to 1 traffic lane in each direction would eliminate the need for right-of-way acquisition and would substantially increase the project's environmental impact, making it easier for CDOT to get federal grant money where environmental impact is part of the selection criteria. Please ask CDOT to reduce Federal Boulevard to 1 lane of traffic in each direction, to prioritize pedestrian infrastructure, and to implement a center running bus lane where existing right-of-way allows. We won't be able to achieve Denver's Vision Zero and Denver Moves Everyone plans while continuing to make car infrastructure a priority. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. And next one, we have Mark Knowles. Mark, let us know if you're in. Mark?
Okay. My name is Mark Knowles. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I appreciate what the two previous speakers said and agree fully with what they said. I just wanted to comment sort of off the cuff from my personal experience. I live 4 blocks from Federal, and to be honest with you, I walk a lot. I'm 67, and I do need to use public transportation to go to doctor's appointments, of which I have several every year, and would certainly appreciate not only a robust transportation system close to my home, but I also would love to have an area that I feel safe walking on. Very recently, I was in the 33rd Avenue and Federal intersection or near it. The light was green for me and my dog. I was going south on Federal, but there was a car that was going to do a right-hand turn, and you may understand a driver who is nervous about getting onto 35-mile-per-hour traffic from a red light, only looking to the left. So that green light didn't really mean much to me because I felt like, well, I'm supposed to be free to walk, but I also don't want to be free to die because the person turning red on a red light wasn't looking to her right or his right. So I would also like to stress that any kind of right turn on red actually should be part of the implementation. There should not be any right hand turns on red. I'd also like to finally say that I love living in Denver. I love living in the neighborhood I do, but I don't really take advantage of the businesses that are only a 20-minute walk from me that are on the other side of Federal Boulevard because I'm frankly not comfortable crossing Federal Boulevard. And anything that can be done to calm the traffic, but this is a wonderful plan that you've come up with. I urge you very much to stick with it and see it through.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Anita, did we have anyone else?
It looks like Leslie. I didn't have her on my list. Okay,
And then, John, did you get your mic working?
Leslie?
Hi, thanks for letting me jump in last minute. Just wanted to bring up one thing for Dottie's concern, and that really is the plowing of the neighborhood bikeways. Given that the additional biking infrastructure that's being built out across Denver is predominantly done through neighborhood bikeways, it's critically important that we continue to ensure accessibility for cyclists and in some cases pedestrians, as many of those neighborhood bikeways also cross kind of key sidewalk areas. And given the agenda for tonight related to snowplow operations, I just wanted to bring that up as an area of concern or advocacy for readdressing any kind of current rules that are being followed by DOTI and prioritize that particular effort.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you, Leslie.
John, you want to give it another try? Oh, I think we still can't hear you, unfortunately. All right. Hopefully, you can either submit written public comment to us via the email address, or hopefully we can hear from you next time. If not, sorry about that. Thanks, John. All right, thank you to all of our public commenters. I did just want to confirm from earlier, we have 15 members in good standing, and our quorum is 60%. So that should put us at 9, and we are now at 10. Our meeting minutes should count as approved, and we have no other votes today. So I think we should be all set there. Nick, can I hand it over to you for the leadership update?
Yes, you can. I'll keep us quick. I know we want to get to talking about snow. A very timely comment we had there. A few items. First, if you haven't, you will likely be seeing a switch out of our the city's licensed operator Lyft, scooter operator, from Lyft to Bird. This is nationwide. Lyft is moving away from their dockless program on there. And so the license to operate those scooters and shared bikes through the end of the current license period, about another year and a half, was transferred to Bird out there. So if you are a Lyft user, you probably got a notification. I think there's still some overlap in operations on there, but yep, look for new orange scooters out there. This week launched a new micro transit service on the west side. So if you're familiar with the Montbello connector or the GES connector, this is free on-demand transit service that utilizes think of your large full-size vans, like a bus shuttles type on there. And that service opened up. It's our third service over on the west side. So that will be serving Villa Park and then portions of Sun Valley, Westwood, Athmar Park, Ruby Hill, and Valverde. So that's very exciting. Those are always very popular services. Colfax BRT construction, you should start seeing stuff actually going into the ground, as in potholing, not bus infrastructure yet. But it is, you're seeing the work being done out there. So very excited to be actually doing the work on the ground instead of the work in contracting and city council and all of that. So very exciting. We'll keep you updated on that. Sidewalk fee still going into effect next month here. Released our lookup tool. So if you're interested what your bill is going to be, or maybe even what your neighbor's bill is going to be, you can go on to the sidewalk. If you just search DOTI sidewalk on there, probably the best way, and you'll see the lookup tool on there. Those bills will start going out in January with as a new line on the existing stormwater bill. And so you will get 2 bills throughout the year, first half, second half. And you will receive your first bill sometimes in the first half of the year. Those go out on a rolling basis. So don't run out there on January 2nd expecting to see that bill. It will be sometime between then and the middle of the year. And also announced some changes to our solid waste service. We are accelerating the implementation of compost on there, really trying to move up how quickly folks get their compost. But also, we will be reducing recycling service to bi-weekly on there. And that is a very interesting topic. If you're interested currently, we did, I think, about 3 different city council hearings over the past month on there. And that team will be in January to kind of give you an idea of how it's going on there. So something to look forward to. Mr. Chair, end of report. Happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. Any questions for DOTI leadership? Danielle.
Hey, I have a quick question for the sidewalk. I know we've talked previously about the Denver bond.
Danielle, I'm trying to track, but it's echoing. I'm sorry. I had you for the end on there. I never know what to. I'll turn my microphone off. I don't know if that. Let's try that again.
Tell me if this is any better. Okay.
Sorry. Feel free to ask in any other way. Yeah, sorry. Tinsley.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to kind of shout out all the public commenters tonight. I think they put in a lot of effort, and I think that we need to weigh that heavily as we're moving forward with some of the stuff that we're going to do. On this board, I think there's definitely. I used to take my kid over to 32nd and Federal, and there was you're right. There's it's unsafe to walk anywhere over there. So, I think it's just important. So, and I think they put in a lot of effort. So I'm glad that they came.
June.
Yeah, on that note, to sort of follow up on what Tinsley said, I know Denver takes care of a lot of the maintenance for Federal, and especially on the stretch where there's a planned widening. That's a stretch of Federal I'm much more familiar with. And the idea that we're thinking about widening it there is completely ridiculous to me, frankly, given how wide Federal is at that point. So how much input does DOTI actually get into CDOT's planning staff and their team for Federal BRT? Because I know it's not a DOTI project, but I know we do a lot of work there. Obviously, it's in Denver city limits. So what sort of influence or pull or communication do you all have with their team over at CDOT?
You know, I'd say we are project partners with them because certainly this is going through Denver. I'd say we have a strong partnership. It's hard to quantify how much influence we have on it. Looking to continue to be partners on there, and so certainly we're carrying these message to their leadership. We interact regularly with their Region 1 director on that. So hard to quantify how much we have, but do feel good about the level of engagement and interaction we have specifically on this project.
Okay, because I do want to make sure that those public comments do get elevated to their team. I know certainly I share all their concerns as well, having done a little bit of the work on this. Yeah, widening of any part of federal, especially in South Federal, to me is completely ridiculous, unwarranted, costly. We could do pretty much anything. Any infrastructure move almost would be better than trying to widen South Federal.
Nick just got a little bit of Danielle's question, but all properties are receiving the fee for the sidewalks, right? No exceptions for recent updates or
Correct.
coverage of the GO bonds.
Correct.
Yeah. You. All right. Any other questions for Nick? Well, thank you very much, Deputy Director. You ended exactly on time somehow and put us on time all together as a board, so appreciate it very much. And with that, hoping I can hand it over to John Essex for an update on snow management.
And actually, Jake, we'll have our Chief Operating Officer, Cindy Patton, kind of introduce it on there.
Perfect.
So with that, if
just for all the circumstance, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
We can hear you great.
Great. Well, I did just want to kick it off. Wanted to introduce myself. I'm Cindy Patton. Thanks, Nick. And I have the honor of being the COO for DOTI, which means I have a number of different groups, including the operations teams, that's street maintenance, transportation operations, our fleet teams, as well as budget in our performance office. So a pretty big group of folks within DOTI. And we do a range of things, but people want to talk about snow, maybe most. And so it's always a really fun topic for us to bring forward, because I think a lot of folks don't appreciate all the different things that go into an operation like this and how complex it is. And what I like to start out by saying is just a reminder that the folks that plow our streets teams, are also the same teams who in the other part of the season are paving our streets, they're doing patching, they're sweeping. We even have folks who are fixing signals or maintaining our wastewater systems. So these are multi-skilled individuals who are carrying out this work to make sure that the traveling public is safe during all conditions. Just for Nick's benefit, I'll also note that when we deploy our residential snowplow program, which you'll hear a little bit more about, we're also deploying folks like Nick, and accountants and senior planners city planners, and folks like that who may not be in operations normally. So it's a pretty exciting program that a lot of folks can take part in some way, shape, or form. And very few storms are the same. There's actually no storm that's the same. So there's no one like set it and forget it plan for dealing with a snowstorm. It's very nuanced. It requires a lot of expertise. And I do want to throw it over to John and Cardell by saying these are the individuals who have the expertise. They have, between the two of them, I think I counted up 51 years of experience between the two. So they are some of our most seasoned DOTI employees, Public Works / DOTI. They've been with us through that whole change. And they just really understand this program and the unpredictability that weather can throw at us sometimes, and how best to respond to that. So John and Cardell, I will let you take it away.
All right, thanks for that introduction. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. That's a good start. So I'm gonna try and share my screen on Zoom for a first time. So let's see if I can do that. And then let me Okay. And I'm assuming I can't see anybody, so I'm going to assume that I'm sharing. Someone say, you guys can say something. Am I sharing my PowerPoint?
No, you are not sharing at this point. There's a second step on Zoom, John. For the rest of us, we all use Teams 99.9999% of the time.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's try and move it.
John, I believe I give you access. Let me see if I just to double check again. Yeah, you're a co-host, so you should be able to share your screen.
I mean, it's surrounded by a blue, like a bluish green border, like what you would normally see when you're sharing on Teams. How do I get it back over here? Let me try it. Let me just try again here. And we'll. Okay. Share. Let me show the screen there. Yeah, it showed which one I'm choosing from, which is screen 2.
And then is there something on the top of the screen that says like, really going to share it now? Probably not phrased that way.
Hold control to select. Okay. Hold on here.
And backup is if you email it to me, I can drive your slides.
The good news is, John, your mic sounds great.
Dulcet tones.
In other words, I should mute it here in a minute. Why?
John, why don't you email it? Yeah, email it to me, Nanita, if you could give me host privileges.
Oh,
there it is.
No, you got it, John.
Okay. Am I sharing
you
a
can see
PowerPoint?
Notes and stuff, so put it in presenter mode and you should be good to go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Way to press all the buttons.
Yeah, well, and all right. Come on. There we go. All right, you're seeing it now, right?
It looks great.
Awesome. That is great. All right, let me do one last thing. Sorry. Okay. All right. With that, nothing like getting you sweating right at the beginning of a presentation. But and Cindy, thanks for the introduction. So yeah, my name is John Essex. I'm the interim director of for DOTI Street Maintenance, and yes, with me, I'm lucky to have Cardell Collins, manager, and one of his duties is managing snow response. As a matter of fact, he's in here today for snow. So great timing for this, and thanks for having us. So. DOTI snow review. So one of the key things for our snow program is we want it to be efficient, effective, and physically responsible program for the type of weather that we have in Denver itself. So we're not designing a program for the mountains or Chicago or anywhere else. We're designing it for here, and we feel like we have a program that does very well for the average and normal type storms that we have. And the goals that we have for our program, we want to make those streets safe. We want to make sure that our emergency vehicles can get around during storms. And one of the biggest things is that we want to be able to recover as quickly as possible from these events so that people can get back to their normal speeds when they travel. That's how we judge really how well we're doing within for our snow program. So just a little bit about Denver and the winters. We have about 55 to 60 inches of snow per year on average. So the last couple of years have been below that level. We have 20 to 2024. I knew that was going to get me 20 to 24 events on average that we respond to. Just like the one last night we responded to. As a matter of fact, in November, we responded to 3 events. Some of them rather large, like the early November event, and then some of them quite a bit smaller. But we are here ready to deploy when needed, even for those smaller events. So in Denver, earliest snow on record, September 3rd, 1961. And the latest snowstorm on record is June 12th, 1947. So way back machine, but that must have been something to see for in June. And then just to kind of compare us to some other areas, Minneapolis, Minnesota averages 51 inches snow season, Salt Lake City 78 inches. So we're pretty far up there as far as our snow, but we do get a lot of sunshine, which helps us fight it. So this is one of my favorite slides because, as Cindy alluded to, we have a lot of people highly dedicated and highly skilled to fight snowstorms. On our main routes, which you could think of as arterials or collectors, streets that are striped, we have 158 CDL operators that are trained to operate these snowplows. We run 55 routes throughout the city, and we work 12-hour shifts. So 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, if needed, to make sure that we are taking care of the city. The next one is the protected bike lanes. So on a side note, we have four tiers, 4 snow tiers that we respond to. So a tier 1 event would be like tonight. We actually have 2 snow teams that'll be in tonight. So a partial deployment is what we call a tier 1 event. And they'll be in tonight just to monitor for any complaints, check bridges and overpasses, things like that. A tier 2 event would be what we call a full deployment event. And that's on that first bullet point where you would see those 55 or those 158 CDL operators out there doing those 12-hour shifts. And then the second bullet point, you would also see these teams out there for a full deployment. And those are the teams that are hitting our protected bike lanes and our pedestrian bridges. And that requires 2 teams of 10 people, and they're doing 12-hour shifts as well. And they look to clear out the whole system that they're responsible for once every 24 hours. And then the last bullet point is for a tier 3 or even a tier 4 event. So on a tier 3 event, we bring in the residential snowplows, and Cardell will talk more about that. But that's going to be a tier 3 for our first shift, and that's from 3 a.m. to 3 p.m. and 36 routes. And those are plowed by 4x4 pickups like a Ford F-350. And they have a plow, but they don't put down any material. And then for a tier 4 event, that's when we're doing 24 hours of residential streets. So we bring in a second shift, same 36 routes, running those same type of equipment. And what I love about this slide, this is one of my favorites, even though it looks rather boring, is if you count up the number of people that are dedicating their time to fighting snow on a tier 4 event. You're running 158 CDL operators, 2 shifts of 36 for your residential, 20 people for your infrastructure, plus your leadership team, and you can approach 300 people. Fighting snow is one of the biggest projects that we do within the city. Responding to those events, a lot of people put many hours and dedication into it. So really like to kind of highlight that when I talk about this one. And then the next slide, this one's actually, as the other one, I'd like to talk about. This one's not as much fun. Snow's expensive. So it's anywhere between $12 million to $25 million per snow season to fight snow. Our last couple seasons, we've been down closer to that 12 million mark, which is great. We've had a little bit lighter snow, and we've had snows that are more wet and have disappeared, kind of like that early November storm that we had. And so that, when the sun comes out, snow's a little bit wet, goes away fast. We put a lot of effort into it, but those are easier ones to fight. And so they cost quite a bit less money. But if you see at the bottom there, average year, right, $3 million for materials, $500,000 for fleet parts, $8.7 million for labor, and $400,000 in field. So it does cost quite a bit of money to fight snow. When we prepare for a storm, we take it very seriously. What I'm showing here is we use about 10 different weather forecasting services, some national like Weather Underground, some are local ones, and then we also contract with weather reporting agencies as well that can give us more detailed information about Denver itself. such as road temperatures, wind speeds, things like that, to help us prepare for storms. So before a storm, we have people monitoring the weather, and then we meet and we come up with a chart like this, and we go over what we expect the storm to do, and then how we should prepare for these events. As Cindy said, every storm is different. There are no two the same. Even the storm that we did just last night, minor storm, but weather forecasts are mostly saying lighter than what it actually came in at. So even with all of our technology that we use, they can still be a little bit off in their forecast. But this is why we take it so seriously. And then our communication plan. So we have the DOTI Public Works communications team. They're given media advisories, social media 311, the Denver Gov website, where you can get updates on current conditions, and then the plow tracker, where you can actually track where the plows are at. Now those plows are a little bit delayed, so they're not exactly where you think they're where they're showing, but you can kind of see, hey, is that in my neighborhood? How does it come down my street? Things like that. So really handy to have, and it does both the big plows, and then it does the RSP plows when they're deployed as well. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Cardell.
All right, how you guys doing? Doing great there. So I'll jump right into it. So we're going to go into plowing the main streets, which is going to get into our operational practices, material usage. So main streets can be described as most streets with stripes. The number of plows deployed is determined by the need. That's pretty much the need. The storm determines our deployment. We wouldn't have a full deployment of guys on a light storm out, congesting traffic, increasing the chances to have an accident or whatnot. We respond to most snowstorms by preparing for a full deployment initially. Our fleet of big plows, they deploy the main streets when snow starts to accumulate, start running all of our routes. Routes are cycled through multiple times per each 12-hour shift, depending on time of the day and the storm conditions. We have up to 70 big plows that address those main streets, 36 4x4 pickup trucks that we use for residential. And we have 8 motor graders that can be used for substantial snowstorms where we have highly accumulating snow within an hour, more than 1 inch an hour, 2 inches an hour. And we have ice that's built up. So those 8 motor graders can help with the blade at the bottom, can help to pull ice and break ice up to remove that. The smaller equipment that we have, we use for pedestrian bridges in some of the bike lanes. We have 3 small specialized plows to address the protected bike lanes. Go to the next slide. Material use on the main streets is our dry de-icer. It's called Ice Slicer. It's naturally mined in Utah. This prevents snow and ice from bonding to the pavements and provides some traction for the drivers, increasing that friction between the tires and the pavement. Liquid de-icer is utilized more in the central business district as part of the city's commitment to reduce the fine particulate matter, which is our PM10 regulations, and that contributes to the poor air quality. We also use these materials for some pre-treating of the streets. Pre-treating of those streets will help the ice keep the ice from bonding to the streets. It's rarely done, as conditions have to be just right for us to effectively and efficiently apply that. If applied at the wrong time, the wrong temperatures, we actually can make hazardous conditions by making roads slick, as opposed to, anti-ice and taking that ice out of there and getting down to the pavement. Go to the next slide. Our residential snowplow program, we have 36 4x4 pickups. They are equipped with plows. They're operated by our DOTI and DPR staff. Each driver of those residential snow plows covers an average of 35 miles over a 12-hour shift. Kind of what to expect when we deploy RSP, which is our residential snow plows, is the plowing of the residential streets that occur between the hours of 3 a.m. to 3 p.m. When we have more substantial snowfall events, DOTI is staffed to run a second shift. It's actually 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. The residential plows take one pass down the center of each street. The residential plows are there to shave off that top layer to make those roads passable, being able to get in and get out for the residents. And they do not expose the bare pavement. The trucks do not carry de-icing materials. They have that plow only, and they're not equipped with anything to be able to dispense materials. The blades on the residential plows float a few inches above the pavement, and that's to avoid things in the streets such as manhole covers, water valves, etc. So if we don't have a lot of accumulation, those snow plows, they won't have much impact, which is why we don't deploy them on the smaller scale snowstorms. With the cold temperatures, the residential plows can worsen conditions with low accumulation. They'll pack down that snow, creating kind of a Zamboni effect, preventing that traction. I said that friction and traction of those tires to the pavement. The residential plows, they're very helpful in creating that path to the main streets. That's our goal, is to get the residents to the main streets. It's not to totally clear out all the snow on all residential streets. We don't have that capability, but it's to make their residences and the main streets accessible. Preventing deep ice ruts from forming when significant snow falls is also followed by cold temperatures. Go to the next slide. Protected bike lanes and off-street trails. So DOTI uses a specialized smaller plow for its protected bikeways. Our snow program aims to address each protected bikeway at least once every 24-hour snow shift. Denver Parks and Rec maintains a city network of off-street bicycle and multi-use trails. If there's significant amounts of snow to push, it'll take longer to complete snow removal operations in the protected bike lanes. We do have those specialized equipment that are able to put material down and break up ice to break that bond and be able to remove that from those bike lanes. Next slide. Removing snow on sidewalks. So Denver requires property owners to clear snow and ice from the sidewalks, including adjacent ADA ramps. After the snow has stopped falling, businesses need to begin clearing their sidewalks immediately. Residents need to clear the sidewalks by the next day. CPD inspectors leave a timestamp notice on properties with unshoveled sidewalks. After receiving the notice, businesses have 4 hours and residences have 24 hours before that inspector can come back and recheck and potentially fine them for not removing that snow due to the hazard. If it's been more than 24 hours after a snow event, sidewalks near you are still not shoveled, please contact 311, provide the address, and they'll get someone out there from inspections. Next slide. Ice in the curb and gutter. There's many locations throughout the city where snow and ice accumulates, as we all know. The problem that's most common is on the south side east of the east and west streets, where a gutter street is shaded by structures, tall vegetation, trees, or fences. That's where we generally see a lot of shaded areas is on that south side. Residents can report complaints and ask for sending to increase safety, or request a larger amounts of ice to be removed by the street maintenance staffing team by contacting 311, giving that individual information of location, kind of what they're seeing, so we can be as well staffed and with the equipment we need to get the job done. Any questions for John or myself?
I see June first.
Great. First of all, thank you all so much for plowing all the streets. I know it's a massive operation, and I mean, everyone who's out there doing it, it doesn't go unnoticed, even though it's out there in all the times when everyone else wants to be home, warm and safe, right? So, a few questions. I'll just say, as someone, so I'm car free. I don't have a car for cost reasons. And whenever I think about sort of getting around the city during a snow event, someone in a car usually has 4 wheels. They've got more traction. They've got a lot of advantages that I don't necessarily have on my bike. And so I'm of the opinion that when we're doing snow plowing and snow clearing, there should be higher frequency clearing of those bike routes, right? Because the snow accumulation and ice accumulation especially is much more hazardous. So one question is, whenever you're walking around after a snow event and a big plow has come through, everyone is expecting that big old wall of ice at the curb ramp, right? And it can be sometimes multiple feet large, especially if you've had multiple freeze-thaw cycles. It's really quite nasty. And I know it's currently residents and businesses' responsibility to clear that, but is there the possibility of DOTI taking on that responsibility, especially along routes that we know are very pedestrian heavy? Because waiting 24 hours for that ramp to be cleared isn't really prioritizing pedestrian access during a snow event, and basically makes the street completely impassable. Say, for example, you're a wheelchair user, because there's no way you can even step over it at that point. So What would you say would it take for us to take on the responsibility of clearing those curb ramps at the very least next to those major roadways and routes that we plow?
So it would be, so one thing that we already do, right? We do respond as far as on street, right? So if it's on street and we get a 311 complaint or a complaint from DPD, we respond to that, and we can clear out those areas as needed when it's on the street. As far as on the sidewalks, it's really right now it's with the businesses or the residents, and the reason is staffing wise, money wise, would just be a massive increase to try to have to take care of those, because that would be hand work for everything that we do. It'd be very, very difficult to do that. I truly sympathize with what you're saying, and that's why we have those rules in place. One thing I would suggest is you can contact 311, and because those are like, if they're not, like Cardell said, if they're not being cleared by those businesses on a consistent basis, that is something that we can send out inspectors to look at.
Thanks, June. Alan?
Again, I just want to echo June. Thank you all. You all are some of my favorite DOTI employees when it snows, for keeping our city accessible. So appreciate you both and your teams. I've a few questions around kind of bike snow plowing, and then a couple questions more around transit and air quality. So this morning, I heard from a couple residents saying the 19th Street protected bike lane and the Broadway protected bike lane hadn't been plowed for the morning commute. Is that just a matter of manpower and bandwidth to get to those by morning commute time? I know it started snowing last night, so you said it was 24 hours to plow everything, and I think it was only 12 hours prior to the morning commute. Is that a fair statement, or sometimes they just might get missed?
No, I think more it's a bandwidth as far as 24 hours to clear the whole system. And this storm was definitely a tough one as well, because even if we would have gone over it, with the blade, it may not have been able to clear out any of the ice that was underneath it. We can put product down in those areas as well, but it may, because I was kind of watching some equipment going down. So I was actually coming to work. It was another county, but they were driving down a sidewalk, and the plow was down right on the sidewalk doing its thing, but it didn't look much different once they passed it because of the type of storm that we had. So sometimes our equipment, there's storms where it works great on, and it's storms where it works okay on, and then there are storms where it's more frustrating. This one was definitely one of those small amount of snow but cold, where it kind of just bonds to that pavement, and it's harder to get it to release.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for those details. And then the other two requests are general accessibility around bike lane access. I've heard folks, especially in Cap Hill, 11th Avenue, if we get one of those good snowstorms and it turns into freeze thaw, 11th Avenue's bike lane, like most of our east-west bike lanes with large buildings next to them, especially as you alluded to before, the south side will get iced over, and it might be unusable for sometimes a month or two. I've seen it certain years. So just a request, if there's anything that you all can do for some of those southern bikes on the southern side of the street on east-west lanes, and also especially our east-west neighborhood bikeways. I've heard some folks that commute in from the western suburbs say if we get a pretty nasty storm, like 35th Avenue will be pretty iced over for a while. So if there's anything we could do to even do a pilot program to try out on a future storm what it's like to plow those, that would be meaningful as well.
That's great feedback. I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah, the goal certainly wouldn't be to have it closed for a month at a time. So yeah, let us take a look at that and see what we can come up with as a better fix. And you're right, those shaded bike lanes are definitely challenging, but we don't want something closed for that length of time. So I have 35th Avenue. Like, could you give me a cross street just so?
Oh, between like Sheridan and Tejon.
Okay.
And then 11th Avenue and Cap Hill, between especially between Cheeseman and
Grant.
Grant. Thank you, June.
Yeah, absolutely. The protected bike lanes are certainly challenging. The equipment that it takes to, so like on our non-protected, right, we can bring in motor graders, things like that if it's necessary. The smaller stuff, it's just more challenging, right? And even the type of equipment, it's just not a big a market for manufacturers to even make, great equipment for that kind of removal. Not an excuse, but there are just some challenges around it, but we'll definitely take a look at those.
And last two questions, I promise. This is a really cool topic. So again, really grateful you all are here today. I had a question from a transit user saying, do you all ever prioritize RTD routes that are not those arterial streets? So our smaller 2-lane avenues to make sure that the buses have access. And then the other question, so collector streets essentially. And then the other question was, is there any potential for having more liquid de-icer outside of the downtown core so we can have better particulate matter air quality in neighborhoods surrounding downtown as well?
You want to do RTD and I'll do the last
Yeah,
one?
yeah, we do address RTD bike lanes. We have all of our routes, specifically assigned, and we also have notes. So we'll have a notice: don't plow to the south side. Bus route. Maxwell is one. That's one of the bus routes that goes out to GVR. So yes, we do have noted those on our routes, and operators try to make sure that those are open as well as the rest of the city.
Thank you.
So then on the last one, we have 10 liquid only trucks in our fleet. 5 of them are assigned to the downtown area, and then so we have 6 teams, six districts that we divide our trucks into. 5 of those liquid trucks are in one district, District 5, that's downtown, and then so all the other districts do get one liquid truck. Now that's if all 10 trucks are up and functioning, but so each one has one. The use case for liquids isn't great. So we use it downtown. We started using it downtown, especially when we used to put down sand. And now what we put down is it's 97% salt. Even the granular stuff that looks kind of reddish brown, it's 97% salt. So most of that disappears. And so it's not as environmentally damaging, doesn't create the brown cloud. It's not a big contributor to that anymore. And of course, we still sweep up within 72 hours. If conditions permit, we're out there sweeping those streets anyways. But liquid, yeah, we do have one per district. And are you thinking that that's a better use of the liquids better than the granular? I'm kind of.
No, I think you guys had just referenced before from a particulate matter control perspective, you're using the liquid downtown. So why not expand to the rest of the city?
I got you. Okay, yeah. So really the PM10 program really got started around sand, and since we've gone to salt, you're not breaking down that sand and having it go up in the air as much, right? When you break down the water breaks down the granular for the most part, and then it is liquefying and kind of just going away. So one, it's much more environmentally friendly as far as air quality is concerned. And then so I guess that's really the answer, is why we never, went totally. And then the granulars just work better for many cases than the liquids.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that explanation. I appreciate it.
Sure.
I was going to piggyback on kind of the information that John gave. Also, the limits that we have with liquids are very minimal. When we get a storm like we have seen the beginning from this year, from November to now, a lot more liquid injected, being a La Nina year. When those streets are wet, that would take that liquid and put that right into the gutters. It will wash it up, render it ineffective. So, that sand granules, when it ran over, they can kind of smash into the street and give us a lot more of kind of a base than we would liquid, being able to wash out waste material and not get the job done.
Thank you.
Got it. I had a couple questions, and they, funnily enough, very much overlapped with Alan's, but I guess just a few distinguishing things. So is there any particular matter concerns with the ice slicer product?
As far as environmentally?
Yeah, is air quality.
It's less. It's less than the salt, or I'm sorry, less than the sand that we used to put down. Really, you're putting salt down, right? So if you put down too much, yeah, you might get a little bit in air, but really it melts. And the thing about salt is it doesn't just appear, so it is going down into it, down gutters, just like any other product. So that's the downside of anything that you're putting down on the roads, is eventually it makes its way to our water systems.
I would say one thing that we do currently do, and we have done historically to prevent that, is after a snowstorm, our sweeping team has sandbox routes and routes that they go and hit, where we will put liquids down, put salt down to pick that sand up, get that liquid off the street as much as possible to prevent that from introducing into our water systems. It's
a good point. Plus, we limit the amount that we put down, so it's not just a free for all of putting down a ton of material. One, it costs a lot of money. Two, for the environment, right? So we limit our spreaders to 150 pounds per lane mile. It is what we put them down at.
Like almost a granule, of that per.
Yeah, and we really depend on traffic, right? The traffic kind of spreads it out for us.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you for explaining that a little bit. I actually hadn't heard of the ice slicer product before, so that's something I learned today. And then I did want to echo, there's definitely some themes here for you, but on the bike lanes, I do represent Capitol Hill, and I hear about 11th Avenue a lot, so I'm glad Alan brought that up. But particularly that south side of 11th, like I can actually see that the ice is just there for like literally months. It's kind of wild. And I don't know if just no one, I mean, clearly I'm not setting the example and reporting it to 311 enough, but it is just like a standout place where that ice is longer than anywhere else in the city. And it's a bike route that's probably used as much as a PBL, but is not a PBL. And then I'd actually take it all the way to Mariposa, like over Spear and into Loma Lincoln Park, just because that bike route really gets the cross city traffic in that part of town. And the hill on between Broadway and Sherman is particularly wild, just a notable one. Turns out our Capitol Hill is really on a hill. That one is, there's actually the 11th, 12th Avenue and 16th Avenue hills. I just wanted to call out as they stay icy, and like even if there's ice there, like I've seen cars just slide through over Lincoln, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
But those are also 12th Avenue is also a primary bike route, and then 16th is protected, so I assume it's covered. But just some and 13th and 14th are also bike lanes, protected bike lanes. So I assume those are in the protected bike lane program. But those 11th and 12th in particular are like some of the biggest safety concerns I have.
Great. We appreciate the feedback. We'll definitely take a look at it and see what we can come up with to make it better.
Yeah.
I don't have it right here in front of me, but yeah, we will definitely look at it, because having something icy for a month or two at a time, that's not what we're aiming for.
Awesome. I appreciate it. And then one final question, and I think this goes in the category of like, I appreciate everything you guys do, and I know that this is not an easy problem. And I like, the one thing I've heard that I empathize a lot with is our wheelchair users have mentioned when the plows go near the ADA ramps, they can create mounds that they can't get over. And I know that's, is there any, like I'm empathetic with both parties. I know that's really hard to address. Is there anything with like how the vehicles turn, or like ways that can be minimized? I know that you obviously can't exactly address it at every ADA ramp a truck drives by, but I was thinking when they turn right, maybe they're creating bigger mounds. But
One thing that our operators do, you know, and when they were running routes, doing our training before routes, training new employees, you know, new FTEs, is that when we get near a driveway, cross an intersection, or you're at that ramp, they square up their plow. So square up is in put it straight. That's going to minimize that wind roll. There's no way to 100% prevent a wind roll, but they do try to minimize it. Now, some of the businesses will, you know, remove the sidewalk snow and put those right there on the corner, like, hey, here it is for the plows. So they kind of contribute to that a lot. But yeah, we do try to square up that plow as much as possible. You can't turn it the opposite way because then you're going to put that snow back into the street, right? So they try to square it up, minimize that wind roll.
Okay, that's great to hear. No, I love that you guys are actually already addressing it, but it's just one that we've heard from the disabled community a good bit, so had to ask. But thank you for all you do. It's Herculean. Amy?
Just kind of random questions. What's the gross vehicle weight rating of some of the bigger power units that you have?
Oh gosh. I think our tandem trucks are 65,000 pounds.
Okay.
And then our RSP, I'm gonna guess here, so 10,000, something around there for GVR.
Okay, and who's your drug and alcohol consortium that you use?
So like who does our random testing?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that Concentra?
Concentra. Yeah, Concentra.
Concentra does it.
And
okay. What about your annual queries with the clearinghouse?
I am not sure what company we go through on that. We use it, I know that, but I'm not sure the name of the company. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just wondering.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Levy.
Yeah, I just want to thank these guys. They're pretty modest. Can you imagine driving this great big truck in the middle of a snowstorm and you've been doing it for 12 hours? It's pretty unbelievable that those guys are as safe as they are. So we really owe them a round of applause for what they do and what conditions they have to put up with. So you ever try to drive one of those things? I haven't, but I know it's really difficult. And then we have the conditions on top of that. So kudos to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate all your all's comments too.
I'm sure you guys don't get much help if you get a flat tire either. So
just honks, but a lot of horns.
Get out of the
way. June, do you have a final question?
If you'll permit me to do a quick final question, how do snow plows deal with speed bumps?
So our plows have a float setting. I mean, we slow down for them, but those plows are, when they're on the ground, they're able to float, right? So they're heavy, but they have a little bit of hydraulic up pressure. So when they hit bumps like that, they kind of float up over them.
Okay.
They also have a rubber bit. That rubber bit on that bottom actually has a trip system also. So combined, you know, with that plow float and that trip bit, they're able to kind of trip to get over those type of obstructions.
So would you say that when it comes to installing speed bumps, say for like other reasons, is snow plowing something we need to worry about sort of in design? Or
yes.
And street sweeping as well.
Yes. A lot of times we get those speed bumps that are, say, within inches of each other. You know, you have some that they're kind of the different designs, you know, where there's kind of a ravine in the middle. There's no way for plows to get into that. And for the sweepers, that's where the sweeper material is going to dump off of that broom, which is trying to flick and kick that material onto that conveyor to put it in a hopper. It's just not possible to get down in there. So 100% yes.
Okay, so it's an impedance for snow clearing operation in terms of clearing the snow itself, but it's not, say, presenting an obstacle to the snow plow as a piece of equipment, right? In terms of like, it won't damage the equipment.
No, it shouldn't damage the snowplow. No, as long as it's signed and they're aware that it's where, like anything else, right? That they're aware that it's there. Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Actually, good full circle last question, but thank you both. We've reached our time for our snow section, but I'm sure we'll all face snow questions throughout this season. So excited to have some answers going into it. And thank you both for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Sweet. Awesome. With that, we'll go ahead and kick it over to our District 2 project update. And I think Rolando, you're going to give us that.
I'm here, yes.
Awesome.
And luckily I was troubleshooting while John was doing the same thing. I was like, I hope it doesn't happen to me. So let's see here. Let me just make
We're
sure.
technically cursed today, so I'm glad to hear it.
Oh, goodness. Okay. And it was a two-step thing according to what Nick said. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Oh, okay. There was a brief pause there, so I got kind of nervous. Like, okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for letting me join your meeting. I know I recognize a couple of faces here. Some are new, but my name is Rolando Melgoza. I'm a community designer, aka project manager 2 with DOTI, specifically in the transportation implementation group. And I'm here just to give an overview of some of the projects we're working on and a little bit about what community design does. So with that, my favorite slide is where I get to talk about myself. First of all, lots of firsts. I am the first one in my family to have gone to college. I'm the first one in my family to have graduated from college. I'm the first one in my family to have obtained 2 degrees in civil engineering. So my bachelor's in civil engineering, my master's is in civil engineering. I'm the first one in my family whose primary language is English. It's Spanish, the other half there. I started off my career with 2 years in the field collecting data. I worked at Dr. Cog. Then I spent about 10 years working as a traffic engineer. So when I was hearing all this talk about the speed humps and the snow, that was one of the #1 concerns that we got. And there were different opinions about it. So it was nice to hear from the experts that speed humps and snow plows can get along. And I've been with DOTI now for about 2 years. And then something else about me is the 3 things I most enjoy in this world. So Mexican soap operas, you might know them as telenovelas, Star Trek, and traveling. I think with traveling, it really opens your eyes to the world. And so I wanted to share with all of you some pictures here. On the left, I'm placing my hand on Big Ben over there in London, moving counterclockwise. This summer, we went to Banff National Park, and that's not a filter. The water really is that blue. Bottom middle, I'm in Medellin, Colombia. I'm just seeing how colorful everything there was and what urban changes Medellin has made over the past 20 years, from being one of the most, I think the most violent city in the world, to being a city that has done a 180 there. So it was really interesting to see. I wasn't there 20 years ago, but just seeing how it's become now, how sustainable. It's a great place. Puerto Vallarta in the bottom right. Top right is Guadalajara, Mexico, as if the sign didn't give that away. But then top middle, so just day before yesterday, I got back from Tokyo. So to me, it's morning, but apparently it's evening here. And I'm pointing at Godzilla right there, if you can see him. Yeah, so he's in Tokyo. He says hi. I didn't get closer, so he didn't follow me back home. So what do we do in community design? The biggest role that we have is to act as a liaison between DOTI and City Council. We also work internally with our community outreach planning. You've heard the 311 a couple of times this evening. Sometimes those cases are a little bit more complicated, more in depth, and so those can get escalated to us to sort of bring in the correct people into having a larger conversation. We also work with different agencies, essentially herding the cats. I know that earlier there was a conversation about the BRT, like do we work with them? Just so we know, I am working with CDOT on the public outreach portion, making sure that when those public events are held, making sure that the right stakeholders are included, making sure that we advertise it right, just making sure that Denver is well represented at those meetings. And then here on our team, it's a team of 4. So there's Maggie, Molly, Greg, and me. And depending on which part of the city you're in, you're going to get one of us, but not all of us. I'm primarily on the west side of town. So I work with districts 1, 3, and 2. And then also some other DOTI community facing roles you might see. There's planning, there's OCBE, there's solid waste, parking, street maintenance, ops, and wastewater. I wanted to give an example of one project that we worked on this last year. And it was the reason why I picked the Dartmouth Avenue project, a bike paving project, is because I think it's very representative of a successful compromise between the DOTI goals of improving the mobility options and what the neighborhood wanted. So what was interesting here was as we retrofit some of these streets, you can see in the picture there, it's called a party lane, meaning that early on in the bike design world, you could have a parking lane when there were cars present. When cars were not present, it could act as a bike lane. Well, our studies have shown that didn't always work. You know, you ended up with bicycles zigzagging in and out if there was a parked car and then some open space and then another parked car there, and it would catch the drivers off guard. So the plan has been, when a street is repaved, meaning the street pavement has reached the end of its useful life, and there's going to be new pavement likes new striping likes new pavement. It's the best time to do that. Then we match up many maps, many programs to see where it makes sense to upgrade, to update these bicycle routes. And in this case, we didn't want to put back the party lane because it wasn't safe for the cyclists. It wasn't safe for the drivers. And so we decided to go to buffered bike lanes, but with the existing width, we weren't going to widen the road. We weren't going to do any right-of-way acquisitions. It had to fit within the existing width of the road. So the trade-off there was we could keep on-street parking on one of the sides, but not the other sides. So what I really liked about this project was being able to work with the Bear Valley neighborhood, attending their public meetings, attending their RNOs, them coming out to visit with us on site and saying, which side would you prefer to keep the parking on? Which side makes more sense? And I purposely took this screenshot here because easy question, easy answer, right? They wanted to keep the on-street parking adjacent to the homes on the north side. But if you were to flip around, there's a very busy pickleball court that's on the opposite side, so on the south side of the street. And in order to, and so they said, well, let's keep it in front of the houses on the north side for this block, but then we'll switch to the on-street parking adjacent to the pickleball courts on the other side, right? And so with that came a transition of having to shift lanes over. And long story short, it was an exercise in designing this to accommodate the safety for the users, all users, because when we think of safety, we don't just think of safety only of the cars. We don't think only safety of the bikes, only safety of the peds. We think of everyone's safety. How can we make all of it work as one? And I think it was installed finally. It should be finished by now. So if you get a chance to drive by or ride by, feel free to do that. Check it out. Some other big picture things that you might hear about, some of the terms. There's a Denver Moves Bikes. Right now it's going through an update. We get opportunities for public comment when Denver Moves Bikes enters a phase like that. We'll usually work with the RNOs in District 2 to help get the word out. There's also safe routes to school. There's a little bit of a rotation there in which schools are chosen for that program. If you have any questions about which schools, plural, we're working with now, feel free to message me. And then there's Vision Zero. Vision Zero, think of there should be the city's goal of 0 transportation related deaths on our roads. And then some other things you might see out and about. Well, we heard the snowplow folks, but also maintenance crews, paving crews. We have our sign crews. If you've watched the news, the speed limits in our residential neighborhoods being lowered to 20. But you might also see utility work, and that can include Excel, communications, Denver Water. You'll have the different colors of what the utility locates are. You'll see them on the ground. Blue means water. I think orange is, what is that, gas or something. And then there's also private construction that you'll see out there. So sometimes it's not us, but a lot of times it is. And with that, I purposely left it so that I knew everyone was going to be more interested in snow because it snowed. But does anyone have any big picture questions for me? Yes. Hi, June.
Hey, so for a short time, I was couch hopping just barely outside the boundaries of D2 in unincorporated Arapahoe County, right there, sort of
Sure.
near Lowell and Federal, near Hampton. So I know the municipal boundaries are really screwy in that area. Does that affect any of the work, sort of with the infrastructure, with the planning? Because one example project is that I've used the Lowell Boulevard bike lane to get up and down from to get through that area, and the main connection to the Bear Creek Trail is right across Hampton, and of course Lowell. Once you get past, I'm looking at the map right now. Once you get past Hampton Avenue, um, is no longer in city limits, but that's the main connection to the trail. So I'm just kind of broadly curious because I don't live in that area anymore. Whenever DOTI is planning for projects there, especially that emphasize connectivity, do you take on responsibility for transportation planning from any other nearby municipalities when the borders are inconvenienced? Like, just curious how that works.
Sure, yeah. So we definitely work with them. I'll use the example of the I always mix it up. It's either the Bear Valley Trail or the Bear Creek Trail or the Bear Creek Park something trail, right? The one that kind of runs parallel to 285. Sometimes sections of it CDOT maintains, sometimes our parks maintains, right? but we are in constant contact with them on who, not that the boundary would change, right? Not like, oh, well, Monday it's ours, Tuesday. No. But like if you were to call into 311 and say there's a lot of trash or something that's blocking the path. If it's ours, we send our crews. If it is someone else's, then we can help to make the connection to whoever that is, right? But I think a better example, not in District 2, but in District 1, if you know where the Clear Creek Trail is, there's a corner of the Clear Creek Trail right where it's sandwiched between I-70 and I-76. It's one of the last remaining at-grade intersections, meaning it's not a bridge, it's not an underpass. We are in meetings right now because almost where the proposed bridge on one of the sides, the ramp going up would be in Adams County. The bridge where it's elevated is very close because it's not a finalized location for the bridge yet. So when it's in the air, it might be in Denver, but then when it lands, it might be in Jeffco, right? So it's a so we are in conversations with them. So rest easy this evening, knowing that we all work together on projects like that to discuss what the design should be, make sure we're not negatively impacting any of the adjacent street network, and working out the details of once it's built on whom does the maintenance fall, right?
Yeah, because I will just flag, I know it's not in city limits, but the Bear Creek Trail is just behind the Cherry Creek Trail and South Platte River and South Platte Trail in terms of actual ridership. Like I see people using it all the time when I'm down there. And there's that one stretch of the trail between, I think it's between Lowell and Federal, which is sort of a blacktop instead of a concrete construction. And I believe it's in Sheridan city limits. But that always to me stuck out as sort of a sore thumb of just the rest of the path is beautifully maintained. Like in Englewood and Sheridan, it's well done. In Denver, it's well done. But in that little stretch, I don't know what can be done to get that little stretch sort of up to standard with the rest of the trail. But just to flag, like people who actually live in that area and use the trail don't necessarily recognize that they're going between like 3 or 4 different municipalities and counties while using it. Just that they notice that this one little stretch of trail is a problem.
And I know exactly where you're talking about.
Right?
Yeah, I know exactly where that is.
It's really strange. I don't know how it ended up like that.
Yeah. Okay. I made a note of that. That's a good conversation point for my team. Thank you for that, June. Okay. Well, with that,
Any other
I don't
questions for Rolando? Oh, sorry. Just a reminder, this is about District 2, which is Councilman Flynn's district. All right, I'm not seeing any Rolando. You might be off the hook. You might have been right about those snow questions.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. I think in District 2, I've only had the privilege to interact with the Bear Valley neighborhood, so hopefully I get to start meeting some other people in District 2. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you. All right, Alan, I wasn't sure if you wanted to introduce the next section of our perfect.
Yeah, I'd love to. I think there's really two components as we think about 2025 planning. For most folks listening online, forgive us. This might be a little bit more boring. This is a little more internal board business, but anyone's welcome to stay here. But we'll be talking about elections. That's coming up in January. We'll be electing both a secretary and co-chair. I'm going to put a link here in the chat for the nominations form for board members. If anyone would like to nominate an existing board member today to either be a secretary or a board co-chair. The secretary term is 1 year, the board co-chair term is 2 years. We'd love to have you do so now in this Google Doc. And while I'll give folks a minute to click on that and to nominate folks. And yes, you can nominate yourself. There's no shame or guilt. If you'd like to do it, please nominate yourself. I'll speak to the roles a little bit. The secretary, it's a pretty, and let me say first of all, thank you to Gary for doing a wonderful job for the last year as secretary. Gary has flagged that he will not be continuing on, and we thank him for his amazing service this last year. So thank you, Gary. The secretary keeps notes on the meeting minutes. You can either do this live and type it up and then send it to Nanita and the co-chairs at the end of the meeting, or you can go back and listen to the video later on if you want to, and do it that way. So and the secretary is also the tie-breaking vote between the two board co-chairs. The board co-chairs, it's a 2-year term, and thank you for Jake for serving in the role for the last 2 years. Have done an amazing job. One of our first co-chairs in the role, one of the first 4 co-chairs in the role. And this role meets a couple times each month for quick half-hour meetings with DOTI leadership, and then obviously co-chairs the meetings or facilitates the meetings back and forth. So it's a really fun role. We hope some of you all will apply for it. And then yeah, that's pretty much it. Any questions about the roles or anything like that before we move on to talking about 2025 goals? No? Great. So again, the link is in there. I encourage folks to nominate folks. The second link on here is around our goals. Jake and I were chatting, and we wanted to really think about what the board, I should clarify this, wants to focus on next year. Largely our topics are driven by you all, and we want to make sure that we're including topics that are relevant for you, that are interesting for you. If we go back to kind of our roots, Councilwoman Debbie Ortega, Councilwoman at large for Denver, came up with the advisory board largely modeled on the Parks and Rec board. She thought there was a better opportunity for residents to engage with DOTI and for DOTI to hear from residents. And we're very grateful for her initiation of this, put it forward to voters a few years back, and voters approved it. So it's part of the city charter now. And DOTI has been great at just about any topic that we've come up with. They've always brought in experts from the department to come and talk to us so we can learn more about the department. So want to acknowledge, A, thank you, Councilman Ortega. B, thank you, DOTI, for taking the board so meaningfully over the years since our formation. And the other thing I want to call out is our charge is not just to learn from DOTI, but our charge is very much to recommend or to advise the department on policy, operation, and budget. So the survey, that second survey, is really a 2-part question. What do you want to learn more about from the department, and what topics do you want to advise the department more on? Things that you think that, like, hey, have we ever thought about doing this differently? Or, oh my gosh, I would love to do this differently for the department, whether it's operations, policy, or budget. So those are kind of the 2 things we're asking you all as a group. And we're going to take a couple minutes now. We'll just take a little 5-minute moment here for any of the advisory board members to pull up your phones or laptops and type in your topics. So we'll give you some time. And then the last question is just how can we improve as a board? We want to make sure this is meaningful for you all. It's a good use of your time and you're feeling like you're having a meaningful impact. We'd love any thoughts that you guys have, any suggestions around things that we can do better in these meetings. So this is take the next 5 minutes or so here, and we'll just take a little break while folks will type up their answers. And if anyone else needs me to send the link again, let me know.
Alan, when did you email the link?
The link is in the chat, Paul. So the first link, the most recent link is the goals, right, and the one above that is the nomination.
Thank you.
And then as you all finish up, if you could just maybe do the virtual raise the hands, and that way I kind of have a feeling when folks are getting close to being finished. Gary, I didn't see your results came in. Did you hit submit on that? I do see Aileen, I see June, I see
So I
Joe.
suppose I'm being, but I think I can give it some thought and send it tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Question for the group related to my form. Does anyone remember the name of the DOTI team that cleans up, like they clean up graffiti or like litter?
It's pretty complicated, Jake, but they're known as the graffiti team.
Okay, is there a team that does more
Oh, the
than that?
Denver Action Team. That's what you're thinking
Okay,
of. Here I am being a
that's what I'm
smart aleck,
thinking.
and there was a special name.
Thank
The
you.
Denver Action Team.
Okay. I kept Googling Denver Action Team and wasn't getting anything,
Yep.
so I'm glad to hear that affirmed. Thank you.
All right, I'm seeing most folks, it looks like, I know we've still got a couple folks that are looking to put in, but it looks like most folks have had an opportunity to give their input. I see a lot of great stuff coming in right now. We'll work on compiling this and then sharing it back to the board. We also want to make sure that we're including the voices of board members that were absent tonight. I know we've got a few folks traveling this time of year, so want to make sure their voices are heard as well. The other thing, you can go ahead throw your hands down now, unless you have anything to say. So thank you guys for that exercise. I probably should just had you put it in chat. The other thing I wanted to mention is I just want to acknowledge and thank Jonathan Pira for his service. He was also one of our board chairs, our first board secretary, and has resigned from the board due to other commitments that he has. But I just want to thank Jonathan, even though he's not here tonight, for all of his great work. And that brings up a great point. We do have a few vacancies on the board, so I want to encourage anyone, whether they're listening online or if you know folks that might be interested in, they're mostly mayoral appointees. And if you Google Denver boards and commissions application, you can apply, or you can have folks apply that might be interested in joining the board as well. So it's a great opportunity, and appreciate all of the folks that are on here tonight serving. And I think we can rely on ourselves to help recruit for this a little bit too, to get us back up to the full board staff. I think we're technically 2 or 3 open spots for mayoral appointees right now. So great opportunity to get us up to back to the full quorum number. Jake, is there anything, or Gary, anything I missed on the logistics on this side of things?
I think the biggest one was we'd love your recommendations to the board, not to us, but to the board commission for additional appointees, because as you saw earlier, we'd really like to make quorum easier to hit. But I don't think I have any other odds and ends. I don't know if you do, Gary.
Only that we have a policy meeting next Wednesday at 10 o'clock in the morning for those of you interested in conversation with Nick during that hour time slot. So.
And then just doing housekeeping, Aileen and Amy, you don't have actual questions, do you?
No, sorry, I'll lower my hand.
Okay, just making
Yep.
sure.
Sorry about that. Multitasking.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I think unless there's any other final comments, I think we're good to end a little early today and enjoy our evenings. Thank you, everyone.
Happy holidays, everyone. See you next year. Someone had to say.
Thank you all for a great year. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, take care.
Bye, thank you.
We lost Doug.
What?
We can't find Doug.
What are you saying, Val? We're getting married in 5 hours.
Yeah,